Hello everyone, it's Miss Smith again, and today we've got our second lesson on literary islands. So we're going to continue thinking about islands. I hope you enjoyed the island hopping from last lesson and enjoyed watching some clips from some films. Might have given you some inspiration for some things to watch, as well as helping you generate some ideas about why writers enjoy using island settings and how they're presented and what kind of conflict and drama they create for characters and readers. At the end of last lesson, I left you with some ideas about how islands in fiction are sometimes represented as extremes. They can be safe, beautiful, like a paradise, a place of freedom, a chance for a fresh start, or they can quickly become dangerous places, nightmarish kinds of settings, full of threat, like hell, full of restriction. Okay, they are quite often places where initially we get a sense of freedom, but that really quickly can turn to an idea of restriction or imprisonment, particularly if you've got one character in that island setting who might become really powerful and tyrannical, and you've got other characters who feel oppressed and really feel like they need to get away. I'm going to remind you again about that sheet that I pointed out to you last lesson, the one with the map of the island where I was telling you to make lots of notes. So you might just want to pause the video now and get that sheet if you haven't got it already. And you might just want to jot down anything that I've just said that you didn't think of yesterday. So feel free to pause the video and do that if you want to. And then when you're ready, press play again, and I've got a new challenge for you. Okay, so your first challenge this lesson is to unscramble some vocabulary that might be new to you. Some of it you might have come across before, I'm hoping you're going to use this lesson and for the rest of this week, and really throughout the unit when you're writing about islands and what writers are doing with islands. So I'm going to show you a jumbled up word like the one that's on the screen now. So you can pause the video, make a note of the word as it is jumbled, and then while you've got the video paused, you can unscramble the word and write down the correct word. And then when you're ready, if you press play again, I'll reveal the answer. And again, like yesterday, I'm just going to assume that you're going to get every single one of them right, because obviously I don't know otherwise, but good luck. Okay, so here's the first one. So you've got E-N-E-D. Okay, so pause it, write it down, unscramble it, come back when you're ready. Okay, so this one, fairly straightforward, I'm hoping. Okay, so the first word is Eden. I'm not really going to talk about these words too much because the next task for you when you go back to the PowerPoint is for you to define them. Okay, but I'm hoping that you've at least heard of Eden. Okay, so that's your first one. Your second one, there you go, E-A-P-S-D-I-R-A. So pause it, jot it down, unscramble it, come back when you're ready. There is a clue in the capital letter. Okay, our next one. Be embarrassing if I get this wrong. Trying very carefully. Okay, so our next word is paradise, which I have used a few times already in my discussions with you, and it is connected with the previous word, Eden. Okay, here's your next word, O-M-Y-H-T-L-G-O-Y. Okay. Okay, so mythology. Some of you might be a fan of mythology, mythological stories. And again, I'm going to ask you to define that when you go back to the lesson. Next one, P-U-I-T-A-O. Okay, so you can see it begins with U. Okay, well done. I'm assuming again you've got it right. Full house so far, I'm hoping. So this word utopia might be familiar to some of you. It depends on what kinds of things you like reading and watching. And you might have heard of the word dystopia, which is connected. And again, we can connect this word to ideas about paradise and Edenic settings. Okay, moving on. Next one, E-S-I T-U-O-D-L. Okay, if you're ready. Oh, I've got that wrong. Okay, so solitude, thinking that word might be more familiar to most of you than some of the other words. It's not that unusual one, but don't worry if you've not heard of the word or used it before in your own vocabulary. And again, you can define it in a moment. So solitude, something that you might experience if you were a character or indeed a person in real life on an island. Next one. I'm not going to list all the letters for you, but take your time to make sure that you get them written down carefully and then come back when you've got the word and you're ready to see the reveal. Okay, so quite a long one. Lots of scope for me to get them in the wrong order here. Okay, so our next word is contemplation. So again, a more familiar word, something that you might do if you were on an island, kind of reflective sort of state. So this is the last one for you to have a go at. So if you jot down the letters again and then press pause, and then you can come back to me when you've unscrambled it. Okay? Okay, so it's a capital M. Okay, now our word this time is morality. Okay, so that's all of your words. You've unscrambled them all now. So you should have a list of key vocabulary that you'll need for this lesson and for the rest of this week. So if you go back to the PowerPoint, pick up at the next slide, that'll give you some instructions about what to do next for defining the words. You'll need to return to this video later on in the lesson. So if you just pause it, and when you come to the relevant slide later on in the lesson, it'll tell you to come back to the video and I'll speak to you then. Okay, so pause the video for now and I'll speak to you later. Okay, hello again everybody. So while I've been away, you've been looking at a speech from Richard II by William Shakespeare, and the speech was when John of Gaunt speaks of the British Isles, specifically though he's speaking of England. So you've read that and you've done some work on it and you've watched a clip of it. I hope you enjoyed the clip, I think it's brilliant. Okay, and I asked you to write about which of the 4 statements that you can see on the screen here now might apply to what John of Gaunt is talking about in the speech and his representation of the island. And you might have any combination of them. You might have thought that the speech wholeheartedly agreed with one of the statements here, or you might have a kind of combination of all of them. You might have picked elements from each of these 4 statements that you think apply. It doesn't matter at all. It's absolutely your interpretation. So to finish off the lesson, I'm going to talk you through some of my ideas about how the island was represented and whether or not it agrees with these statements. You don't have to agree with me. You've got your own ideas, okay? But this is just to kind of give you some things to think about and some help, really. So if we consider statement 1, the idea that islands are miniature universes between real and fantasy, there is certainly the suggestion of this in the island that John of Gaunt speaks of. And he certainly could be seen to be suggesting that it is a miniature universe in itself. It feels very self-contained and has been presented as being strong like a fortress in the past, a place of safety and security. And you might wonder if he's coloured by nostalgia, so he's kind of looking back with rose-tinted spectacles, and perhaps it never was as wonderful as he depicts it as being, so perhaps his depiction of the island is sort of fantastical in a way, but that's just one interpretation. And he presents it also as being a very natural place, and he presents it as being like a mother figure. So it's really interesting in that respect. He does use language to suggest that it's perfect, that it's kind of like this utopian state almost, and he begins the speech by suggesting that it was isolated or protected at some point from human vice. At least it seemed like it. There was some sort of resistance there. But you might think, again, as I was hinting before, that he's mythologising his island, presenting this romanticised view, because at the beginning of the speech he is speaking of it as being like an Eden. He uses language about precious stones. He calls it a blessed plot. But by the end, this positive view's changed, hasn't it? It's diminished. And England, he says it is now bound with shame. So it's gone from being this this fortress, this wonderful place of safety and certainty and perfection, to an island that is bound in with shame. And he speaks about inky blots, uses words like rotten, scandal, and death. So all of this is suggesting that it kind of becomes like a prison rather than a place that's a paradise, or kind of this solitude where you can contemplate and improve and grow. Okay, so there's certainly evidence there that you can agree with elements of statements 2, 3 and 4 as well. The suggestion of utopias and paradises is clearly there, but also if you move on to statement 4, this idea that it has now become a lost paradise, but not necessarily a lost paradise where poetry and contemplation take place. For him, it is becoming a lost paradise where law is breaking down, and there is a test to the morality of the inhabitants of this island. The references to shame suggests that the people ruling over the island are lacking a sense of morality, and John of Gaunt is lamenting the change that's taken place to his island, of which he has felt very proud of and felt a real affinity with and a love for. Okay, so I just wanted to end there by giving you some of my thoughts, because I know sometimes it's hard when you're going through lessons and you're jotting down your ideas, and because you can't see your teacher, you don't always get any confirmation of whether or not you are on the right lines. However, that said, you don't have to agree with anything that I've just said there. You might have completely different ideas written down in your notes, and if they make sense to you and you can explain them and back them up with evidence from the speech, then that's absolutely fine. You should feel really confident with that. And well done, because you've looked at Shakespeare on your own at home, and that's not always easy, so well done everybody. Okay, I'll be back to talk to you later on in the week, so thank you very much for listening. See you later, bye.